the former permanent secretary, that is Choda, made a request for supplementary as the accounting officer. The supplementary came in 2 phases. The first one, in regards to this specific item, was 5 billion shillings. They later received another 3 billion shillings, another financial year, making it a total of 8 billion. They also received 2.8 billion to purchase cars for the honorable ministers. However, there are 4 different scenarios. There is a group that sought the supplementary. There is a group that decided not to shift. There is now a group involved in fuel. And there's also another group involved in purchase of vehicles. Now the first group that sought the supplementary, it has come to our attention that even before the supplementary had been given, the former permanent secretary moved with the procurement officer, who was Mr. Lapien, the head procurement, for a casual visit to 2 premises. One was Kingdom and the other was King Caesar's building. They say it was a casual visit, but it is that casual visit that helped them identify, even before procurement had started, where they would shift to. There are irregularities in that process. Under normal circumstances, a market survey should have been done. This was not done, but that is what happened. So after the supplementary came to Parliament, Parliament approved it, and the money was released by the Ministry of Finance. However, the permanent secretary now, Madame Geraldine, wrote to the PSST requesting for environment of the first amount of money of 5 billion that was meant for shifting to renovation. Now, this was made in contravention of Section 22 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2015 because the said request was not tenable under the law and therefore void ab initio. Section 22 of the PGMA provides as follows. Environment. The minister may, upon request by an accounting officer, vary within a vote the amount of money allocated to the vote. Environment made under this section 1 shall not be more than 10% of the money allocated for an item or activity of a vote where the environment is from one item or another activity to another, be contentious or result in future liability for the vote or the government. The request was made to the PSST and not the minister. Under normal circumstances, it is only the Minister of Finance. I am sure Honorable Bahat knows this. The request was for 100% environment, and yet the law limits to only 10% of the money allocated. This request therefore should not have been the basis for a procurement of services worth 6.2 billion Uganda shillings, the expenditure that ensued as a result amounted to diversion of funds against the PFMA. However, in the PSST's letter, he advised the accounting officer, Madame Geraldine, to change work plans. It has come to the attention of this committee that the PSST approved change of work plan, but he has never seen that work plan. So, Madame Geraldine decides to do renovation. The process is started. Ministry of Works comes in. They do BOQs of 3.1 billion. They further make amendments based on the market value at that time. It is pushed to 4.6 billion by the Ministry of Works. The process of identifying potential people to do the renovation starts, and this is where the problems start. The head pass at that time, Mr. Everest, starts the process. A lady known as Rose, I believe she's a PA to one of the ministers, is strict because we kept wondering how Ministry of Works quoted BOQs at 4.6 billion, and in the end, it went to 6.2 billion. Madame Rose is strict that Mr. Everest is not in office, so she should sign Form 5. Now Form 5 comes with 6.2 billion. Because we have interacted with the evaluation committee and the contracts committee to identify how or where the 6.2 billion originated, they have all informed us that Form 5 had the 6.2 billion, and therefore it's what they used to award the contract. So all in all, the price of renovation was inflated in that process between Rose, who is the secretary, assistant secretary, who was strict and told that the person who was working on that same procurement was no longer available. Okay, so they award the contract to SARIC. SARIC didn't have the necessary requirements, but before that, there were two procurement processes that were initiated. The first one involved a company known as Ambitious Construction. It had all the requirements. It's the only one that submitted, and up to now they are still waiting to do the work. However, that process was terminated and a new procurement process started. And in the new procurement process, even the other company that was the only one that submitted the first time was not invited. Now, SARIC is invited along with two other companies. SARIC is given the contract without the necessary requirements. On top of that, SARIC is paid 80%, which is contrary to the law, because the law says you should pay 30%. SARIC was given 4.8 billion out of the 6.2. There is also an issue. Madame Geraldine committed government into a multi-expenditure without approval from Parliament as required by the law. Okay, now we move. Immediately after SARIC is approved, SARIC starts the renovation. Now they need to shift the equipment, that is the tables and the documents, from the ministry to a certain location in Entebbe that was given to us by the Ministry of Energy at no cost. Now, the engineer at the Ministry of Trade, known as Byarhanga, goes and identifies a company along the railway. He has forgotten its names, he just knows it as Green something. This company, but in the process they first asked SARIC to give them a quotation for transportation of these documents. SARIC gave them a quotation of 457 million to transport the documents and furniture from Kampala to Entebbe. They said it was high, so they decided to take it into their own hands to get a way of transporting these documents. Now the engineer goes, identifies a company known as Green something. We are yet to establish if it is true, but he has confessed before this committee that he wrote to the PS and they agreed to pay this company through fuel cards. So, we have confiscated the engineer's fuel card. We are trying to establish how much is on that card. But he was withdrawing fuel worth 2 million shillings for every trip from Kampala to Entebbe. I don't know what kind of vehicle that was. We asked him before the committee what kind of vehicle consumes fuel worth 2 million shillings from Kampala to Entebbe. We have also confiscated these gadgets, mobile phone. I believe before we conclude this meeting, the reports are ready. We shall also read to you the findings of the reports. But we asked him how this has been happening in the ministry, and he told us, he has given us a document actually, the PS accepted, approved. So now, you have given someone a contract, you don't even know this person to transport sensitive documents of government from Kampala to Entebbe. Apparently he has a box body vehicle. He couldn't tell us exactly what kind of vehicle this is. But so far, what we know from what he told us he was giving them fuel worth 2 million shillings for every trip from Kampala to Uganda. They did not go through procurement. It is just a casual transaction. We have asked them how much they spent on the 2 floors already. He told us an estimate, each floor would cost 80 million shillings. And he told us you have already shifted documents worth from 2 floors. That's floor 5 and 4. So he told us it is an estimate of 160 million for the 2 floors. That means if you have to shift the 4 floors, you can imagine that is about 320 million from Kampala to Ntebe. Okay, as if that is not unfortunate enough. Mr. Tom, the office attendant, appeared before this committee. We are trying to establish if it is true he's doing procurement as alleged by the head procurement at the ministry. It has come to our attention that it is true. We wrote to the Accountant General, who wrote back to us confirming that this office attendant actually even has a password and a username to access the procurement system. We interacted with the Permanent Secretary, Madame Geraldine. Her justification was this office attendant actually has a degree in procurement. Well, whether that is still justified for an office attendant to do procurement, Mr. Lapiem, the former head procurement, informed this committee that the office attendant was the one who did the procurement for the vehicles. Those are the 5 vehicles that were given to the ministers. Now there's also an issue of whether the vehicles you are driving are actually second-hand. Because the process was started by the ministry, the current permanent secretary stopped the process because she said the supply of vehicles within 2 months was too long. So she decided to identify her own supply for these vehicles. They went to a bond known as We Have Traced the Vehicles. They were purchased from a bond that belongs to one Mafias, known as Kampala Modernity. According to the Ministry of Works that did the inspection and the permanent secretary, they still insist these vehicles are new. We have traced them back to their origin. They were all purchased in Sharjah. We have identified all the specific bonds they were purchased in through PIVO. You know, when you are bringing a vehicle, you do pre-shipment inspection under UNPS, and that certificate has the exact mileage and the exact bond where the vehicles were purchased. We have also gone ahead to write to our mission in the UAE. We are now trying to establish if they even had registration number plates before they were taken to those bonds. So the issue of the vehicle is not yet conclusive because we now want to have a bulletproof report that no one will challenge, because we are now dealing with people who are very good at press conferences. So this committee must have enough evidence to prove, but maybe you will tell us if your cars are used. If you said that, I saw the Honorable Minister Mwebesa, he said this guy is moving, so it was new, and he has no problem. Okay, the vehicles that were purchased, the person who supplied the vehicles is still demanding money. And yet Parliament released 2.8 billion for these vehicles. He came to our committee using, represented by his lawyers, and they are demanding 160 million balance. I don't know where you're going to get this money, but that is the story of the vehicles. Now, the issue of the procurement under the PPDA of the renovation, under the PPDA, the guidelines number 1 of 2014 regulation 1.2 provides restricted domestic bidding, the companies that were invited to do renovation. shall be used if the estimated value of the works is greater than 200,000 but does not exceed 200 million, sorry, but does not exceed 500 million. The contract that was awarded for this renovation is already above the threshold and therefore in contravention of the PPDA Act 2003. So you can see where we are going, but now we are looking at a total of 8 billion that was given to the ministry. The permanent secretary up to now has failed to give us accountability for the 8 billion. We are now tracing the accountability backwards. We have now traced, this is a bank statement of Footsteps Furniture. By the end of the day, they should be in prison. The Ministry of Trade sent 54 million on 30th of June 2021 to Footsteps Furniture to provide furniture. They again sent another 54.7 million to Footsteps Furniture and they supplied air. This is a total of 108 point something million. They have gone to the ministry to try to backdate and they have failed. So you have a ministry sending money, dealing with a furniture shop to supply air and share money. Now we are now working backwards because your permanent secretary has failed to give us the work plan for the 8 billion. So now we are tracing pieces by pieces. We have 3 of your staff. Rosemary Asimwe, Nelson Baliejusa, who was the senior accountant, and Evarist Himbisiwe. They have siphoned 362.316 million using fuel cards. We don't know how much you are giving these people for fuel, but now this is part of the 8 billion. It has also come to our attention that the ministry purchased laptops without going through the formal process of procurement, purchased laptops for the people on floor 5 and floor 4 to go and work from home. The total was 200 million. Up to now, we don't know how much was spent for each laptop. We don't know who supplied the laptops. You can see how the ministry is being elusive. But we are told 200 was also spent on the laptops. Now, Mr. is there, your engineer. I see him at the back. He can confirm. We don't know how much was put on his fuel card, but he was giving 2 million shillings for each trip using his fuel card. Each trip that was taking documents and furniture from Kampala to Entebbe. They will go to a petrol station and he gives them fuel worth 2 million. He's there at the back. If we are telling lies, we can confirm. So basically, we still have about 2.8 billion unaccounted for. We don't know what has been used for this money. We also want to give you an update that there are infights in your ministry. There seem to be groups and camps and whatsoever. So I don't know how you're going to sort those issues as honorable ministers. The procurement in the ministry is done casually. No systems are followed, no processes are followed as per PPDA. So we just wanted to give you an update. I cannot give you all the details because the report is confidential. But we wanted to give you an update on the few findings. So far, we are still tracing. We have received I don't know if the police has arrived, that we present to you the police reports. We got court orders. We took Mr. Byalhanga's phone. We also took Mr. Tom, the officer tenant's mobile phone. And there is an INIT at the ministry, who seems to be the dealer. The broker, I don't know what she does at the ministry, but now the conversations are between the PS in it, Byaruhanga, PS in it, Tom, the office attendant. I'm sure the police will be here. I'll read that report for both mobile phones. If it is not very long, I'll read it for you. So basically, that is a brief of what we have so far, without giving too much information.